Hi buddies, let us discuss vouching. What is vouching? Before moving into vouching process, we should understand what is a voucher. Voucher is a system generated report. In accounting system, what are the data we are inputting into the system that will be stored in the system. Later that will be taken as printout. The supporting bills will be attached to the voucher and get it signed by the appropriate level. I repeat the point again. The printout will be taken from the system. Supporting bills, the transaction have a supporting bill that is attached to the voucher, and the voucher is get signed from the appropriate level of authority, and this process is called voucher. What are the thumb rule of vouching? All the vouchers should bear the supporting document. This is the thumb rule. If there is no supporting document, there should require a written explanation why the supporting document is missing. All the vouchers should be signed by the person who is making the voucher, receiver or payee, and it should bear the signature from the appropriate authority. These are the thumb rule of vouchers. What is vouching? An article student may have a lot of opportunity to vouch the documents. So what is vouching? Vouching is an examination of vouchers with supporting bills for an accounting period under audit. What are the definitions telling here? It is a supporting bill, vouchers with supporting bill that should fall within the accounting period. What is a missing voucher? A transaction duly entered into the system. It is recorded in the system, but when we making a checking with the report with the actual voucher, it may be missing. We may be writing a paper and submit it to the management that these are the vouchers missing in the books. This is the main test, vouching test. What are the vouching test? Whether the entries are accounted under the right head of account. All the entries are accounted under the right head. If the wrong head, any expense or income has been booked, that has to be rectified. Whether the voucher is attached with the proper bill. Voucher should bear a proper bill, supporting bill. That is the thumb rule. It is a thumb rule. We already seen the thumb rule. It should bear. There is no compromise in thumb rules. Whether the vouchers bears the signature of the person who are involved in it. The person who make the voucher, and it is authorized and it is approved. And whether the vouchers bear the series number of the transaction. Each transactions have a series of number 1, 2, 3, 4, likewise JV, payment. So type of the vouchers. What are the type of vouchers? Vouchers can be classified into payment voucher, receipt voucher, journal voucher, and contra vouchers. Point to be considered while vouching. This is an important. Voucher should be numbered. Voucher should be dated and fall within the accounting period. If you doing a vouching process, your voucher should fall within the accounting period. 1st April 2017 to 31st March period, the voucher should fall. If any voucher in any other period shall not be allowed and entertained. Voucher should be authorized. Voucher should relate to the client's business, accounted under the proper head that would be disclose the character of the receipts and payments post. Alterations in the voucher should be authorized. This is the main point. Any alteration we should be properly authorized. Amount in words and figures should match. Cancelled voucher should be retained in separate file. Unused voucher should be kept under lock and key. Let us moving into the main part. Income vouching, cash sales, credit sales. We going into the trading account. It may be seen there: cash sales, credit sales, goods sent under forward contract, sale or return basis, sales proceeds of junk, rejected scrap material, consignment sales. Let us move into the cash sales and credit sales vouching. Aspects. What are the aspects we are checking into? The internal controls, to check whether the internal controls and if there is any weakness in internal control, that has to be addressed with respect to the cash sales and credit sales. General ledger, how we checking the sales, cash sales and credit sales? Check the total with the sales ledger. If you go through a sales ledger, it contains both cash sales and credit sales as well. Checking the total sales, cash sales and credit sales. We are checking for one ledger, sales ledger, which contain the information of cash sales and credit sales. There is a GST for purchase and sales. It is, we have to pay the GST. So check the GST ledger and match the sales. You reverse work with the GST rate and GST payable, that has to be matched with your sales copy. And the last point, on what document you base for checking the sales transactions. It should be done with the carbon copies of the bills. So let us move quickly the aspects. We have to check the internal control, we have to check the sales ledger, we have to check the GST return, and finally we have to check the carbon copies of the bill for both cash sales and credit sale. Next is the one of the important area, vouching of sales proceeds of junk, rejected scrap material. What are the vouching aspects? As usual, internal control. Examine the internal control for four processes: generation, storage, identification and disposal of the scrap and junk. What are the internal control over these processes? Production ledger. If we go through a sawmill, there may be cutting of the wood, that will result a powder which will be sold as a scrap. So the main document is the production document. We have to cross check with the production documents. What are the matters contained in production documents? Compare the scrap quantity with normal loss. Industry fix a normal loss for the scrap. Whether the scrap generated is as per industry norm. If it is not, that should be reported. GST return. Ensure that the GST has been paid for the scrap sales. We have to check the GST return. We have to check the production register. These are the vouching aspects. And finally, we have to check the carbon copies. All the sales has to be checked with the carbon copies of the bill. The main documentation, likewise, internal control, production register, GST return and carbon copies of the bill. Sales or return basis. In these aspects, we have to check stock register, general ledger and GST register. Goods are validly returned and accounted as receipts in stock. The stock valuation should be at cost price as contract plus market price, whichever is lower. As far as the goods with the customer, ensure that the periods approved by the customer have not expired. These are the matters should be checked with the stock register. Only the possession is handover till the sales is recognized. Then general ledger. Sales should be accounted if and only if goods are accepted by the customer. Otherwise, no. Then all the sales will be connected with GST. GST has been duly accounted and paid. That has to be checked with GST register. Goods sent on consignment basis. What are the aspects to be checked? Stock register, general ledger, GST return. All the case GST return is common. Obtain confirmation and agreement. Stock register. Stock valuation should be at the price as contracts to the cost price or market price, whichever is lower. What are the basis of valuation? It should be at cost price, unlike the cost price or market price, whichever is lower. Ensure that no profit has been accounted for unsold goods by the consignee. Only income has to be realized at the time actual sales taken place. Till the goods with the consignee, the profit has not been booked. General ledger. Ensure that the consignment sales have been properly accounted by debit the consignee account and credit to the consignment account. GST return. Account the GST the moment sales are accounted into the system, reflected into the system. Obtain confirmation. Obtain balance confirmation from the consignee. Is a written documentation. Agreement. Check the agreement with consignee and understand the terms and conditions. Next is one of the important area, bad debt recovery and bankruptcy dividends. What are those? What are the aspects to be checked? Bank statement, credit manager file, schedule of debtors and other aspects. Bad debt recovery. Bank statement. Ensure that check received from the party has not been dishonored. The same condition is here. Ensure that the check received from the party has not been dishonored. Trace the receipts into the system. Both commonly applicable for both situations. Credit manager file. Amount received was adjusted against amount due from the party. Schedule of debtors. Ensure that the amount recovered has been taken care in bad debt schedule of previous year. It has to be adjusted. It has to be matched with the bad debt schedule. Another point. Ensure that the amount recovered has been taken care in the bad debt schedule of the previous year. In both cases, the common points. Other aspects. Check the legal actions taken for recovery of bad debt. If there is any case, that has to be withdrawn. Additional points with respect to the bankruptcy dividend. The bankruptcy dividends arise when debtors become insolvent and subsequently the amount due from them receives various installment. Next is the audit of expenditure, that is we moves into the separate discussion.